And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Pokey SMP podcast. Hope everyone's been doing well. And thanks for joining me and Jesse today. We're here to dive into what has become the hottest Pokemon market we've ever seen. Honestly, we're in uncharted territory because even during the COVID boom of 2020, 2021, things didn't feel this irrational. We're watching brand new sets like Destined Rivals, barely 2.5 month old, already selling for over 300. Distributors are holding or even backdooring products. Ribbon shippers are depleting sealed products at an unprecedented rate. Scalpers are still running rampant, and Pokemon Center website is can't keep a single thing in stock. I don't think I've been able to get anything for the past few months, actually. So it's been absolutely wild. What is on your mind, Jesse?
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be back. This is such an important episode for us because we've been wanting to make an episode talking about what to buy in this like preparing people not to put all their money into the hypest sets or products, because usually at a peak market, the majority of the assets in this class is going to come down. But a lot of people are calling us bears and hey, you guys just think everything will go down. It's not the case, because the market is cyclical and the market is very sophisticated. There's so many different parts of the Pokemon hobby that you can always put money into areas that are undervalued. So we're going to focus on what we are buying today. And it's really important for us to say that this is not us telling you guys to buy these products. It's just what we are buying, and we're not trying to influence the market in any way. It's for us to kind of like share that information because I was requested a lot. And I feel like for me, I did have a little bit of a mental blockage not to talk about the things that I buy, with the thoughts that like I don't want people to think I'm influencing the market or trying to shill a certain area. Like a lot of the things I put in here, I haven't like fully committed to buying because I didn't have the time to, but things that I will be buying in 2025 as well. So before we really go into that, can we make sure that we're not lagging? Because I kind of like when you were talking was a little bit lagging on my side. I just want to make sure that like everyone is hearing everyone clearly.
Yeah, there were a few parts and that was a little glitchy, but right now, for the last few seconds, it's been running smooth. So hopefully that's what's translating to everyone else or the viewers.
Okay. Oh, by the way, for those of you that were at the LA Worlds, I'm super jealous. I am in LA right now, but I was a few days late.
Yeah,
I'm at the TAG headquarters, working here for the last few days, and I will be going to
exciting.
the West Coast Card Show that's coming up in a couple days with CJ as well. So
Ooh,
if you guys are in LA
yeah,
and coming to the West Coast Card Show, come say hi to us. We always
yeah.
like meeting people and seeing like a lot of our online friends for the first time. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive into what we learned from the past. All right.
Okay. So you got a great quote from Nito.
Oh, yeah. So here's a quote that I like to share with all the viewers. Originally shared by Nito on Instagram. And he's one of the OGs in the community. And so the quote reads: "The market is a pendulum that forever swings between unsustainable optimism and unjustified pessimism. The intelligent investor is a realist who sells to optimists and buy from pessimists." And I just can't help but to feel that this does not only apply to the stock market, but also to the Pokemon market that we're in. Nothing goes up forever, and the market has always been cyclical. So I hope to encourage our viewers to have a more realistic mindset as we move forward.
Yeah, I think it's a great quote, and that's why we really stress the importance of selling part of your investments or collection at a peak market, because if you don't, it's really hard to sustain an expensive hobby like this. because if you're gonna just keep using your money to buy and never sell, you're gonna
Right.
keep pulling money out of your day job, like whatever you're doing, and it's usually not sustainable because most people have bills to pay and mortgages to take care of, and the moment you need money, you're gonna have to fire sell your collection, and that is not what we
Yeah.
want to see.
Exactly.
But also, I'm not subscribed to the notion that most people think the market is either going up or down, because it's not a binary concept where the entire Pokemon card market is always going up or down at a certain time, because it's such a sophisticated asset class that you have modern sealed, vintage sealed, promos, Japanese, English, slabs, singles. There's so many different areas, right? You can
Right.
always find a time to buy undervalued products or cards at any time of the market. So we're going to go through some examples where we can learn from historical data from previous similar market points, where what people were buying that eventually crashed in the
Yeah.
next correction phase, the next cycle, but also what people could have bought that was undervalued during those times. So we're going to talk about some of the historical data that we have compared to, and use that as a lesson to what we should be buying as investors or even collectors. All right, so super excited. So I
Perfect.
kind of like compiled
Yes.
this from experience, and we talk about like two previous booms. The second one might not be as well known as the first one, but I can tell you, in certain parts of the world and in certain areas of the hobby, it is absolutely as crazy as it was for 2020.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Can't wait.
Yeah. So 2020 and 21 is the previous COVID boom that everyone talks about, right? There
Mhm.
was previous booms before this, like 2016 when Pokemon Go came out and everything went crazy. But 2020 and 21 is the most recent one that people talk about. So we're going to talk about what everybody was buying at the time. In the sealed segment, people were tripping over themselves trying to get to Shining Fates, right?
I
Shining
remember.
Fates is perhaps the most hyped set of all time, because it came right after Logan Paul stream, right when pandemic was starting, and then people were getting their stimulus checks, right? Remember that
Oh
time?
yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
yeah. And when Hidden Fates was really
Crazy time.
expensive, people wanted to get Shining Fates, because when it first came out, that was a set that first introduced scalpers like into the
Hmm.
whole community, because
Oh
people
yeah.
weren't really scalping anything before that. I think Vivid Voltage maybe a little bit, but Shining Fates, Vivid Voltage was kind of like the start of this craziness.
Right.
And XY Evolutions, went from $100 to like $600 overnight after the first edition box break. Darkness Ablaze, Hidden Fates, like I mentioned, Celebrations as the 25th anniversary set, which is why a lot of people associate anniversaries with these booms. And then
Hmm.
Vivid Voltage, because Vivid Voltage is technically the first set when it really went
Started.
crazy, and the Rainbow
Yeah.
Pikachu was everyone's chase.
I
One of the
remember.
things that every single one of these sets have in common, actually including Vivid Voltage, is there is Charizards in these sets, right?
That's true.
And at the
Mhm.
time, Charizard was literally what everyone only cared about Charizard at the time,
Yeah.
right? And as you can see a little bit later, we can show what you should have bought, because people were tripping over these tag team tins at Toys R Us or Costco or GameStop, trying to get to the Shining Fates, Evolutions, Darkness Ablaze, and Vivid Voltage. Because what I was just joking about it with a friend of mine, Logan. He was like, "Oh, who cares about tag team? Who cares about team up? There's no Charizard in there."
Oh,
Right? People were crazy about Charizard at the time.
crazy. And the Pikachu as well.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
it just
wasn't the PSA 10 Darkness Ablaze Charizard was like 500 to 800 plus at that time, and now it's like you can get it for under 100.
yeah, I think at the time it was like close to $1,000. Every single Charizard that came out, including the two Shining Face Charizards. Well, I mean, there's one Shining Face Charizard. There's the other ones in the other ones are in was it Champions Path. Yeah, all of those cards were around $1,000 in a PSA 10 when they first
I
came out, and then
remember that.
everyone started opening everything, and
Oh my
obviously
gosh.
these sets were printed to the ground.
Oh, that's
And
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and everyone was like only buying the most hyped up sets, and most of them were the modern sets that contain Charizard because everyone saw Logan Paul pull versus Charizard from the Logan Paul box break.
Right. I
And
remember that.
yeah, that was all everybody was thinking at the time. So what you could have bought during that time, now that we know historical data, we know
Right.
what would have been a good investment sealed wise were these, right? You got these tag team tins literally at every Toys R Us, even at the peak of the market, they weren't being bought because I remember I was trying to, not just me, everyone was trying to buy the Shining Face, anything that contained XY Evolutions. And you see these tag team boxes literally just piled up, right? For
Right.
$20 each.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
true. I was seeing Team Up in Target on the store shelf, and nobody wanted them. That was
Yeah.
crazy to think about now.
So as you can see in this 2020 to 21 theme, we're talking about what you could have bought, meaning hindsight is 2020. The most efficient use of your money was to buy all the tag team sets, which at the time was still ultra modern because all of these sets came out in 2019 and 2020. Being in 2020 and 21, the end of Sun and Moon was still very recent, right? It's equivalent of the last few Scarlet Violet set that's to us now. That's how available they were, even though they were extremely short printed compared to the Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet era sets. Yeah, these things were everywhere. I remember we bought three booster boxes of Unbroken Bonds for 120 USD, ripped them all, and then went back and bought like 5 more because they were sitting at the store shelves and nobody wanted them. Same with Cosmic Clips. I remember Roaring Skies and Primal Clash. These two sets we saw at either a dollar store somewhere for sale, like literally $2.80 USD per pack. And there were like hundreds of packs of Roaring Skies and Primal Clash. I don't know if you remember that, but no one wanted these sets at the time. They were pretty heavily printed for these early era sets at the time. But in 2020 and 21, when people were saying everything is at its peak, these sets were cheap. Very cheap and very available. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually not paying attention to Primal Clash and Roaring Sky specifically. I was more into Team Up. I bought Team Up, Unified Minds, Unbroken Bond, and Cosmic. So I wasn't really on the XY train at that time.
Yeah. XY, all the hype was going to XY Evolutions. And XY Evolutions obviously is a very important set for CJ and I because we opened so many of them, and it was kind of like the beginning of CJ's Pokemon card collection journey. But XY Evolutions is printed to the ground. There's a lot of those sitting around. And Roaring Skies and Primal Clash, these other XY era sets, are not getting any attention. They're selling for $100 a box. Now it's the opposite. I think Evolutions is still around $1,200 or $1,000, like a little bit over $1,000, right?
XY Evolution is running up now. Is just making its way up to 1,900 to 2,000.
Oh, really? Okay, so it's around 2,000 now.
Yeah,
I believe Roaring Skies is at 4K or 4,500.
5K. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I remember this because CJ Shop sold one during our anniversary while we were gone. That's in June 13th for 2,200 Canadian, which is like 1,600 USD. So it was like 1,600 USD just like 2 months ago, and now it's at 5K.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, it was super cheap. It was $100. So anybody that said, "Oh, everything is at its peak in 2020 and 21, all the Pokemon cards are going to crash," no, there was a lot of opportunity at the time that you just didn't pay attention to. Which is why we preach on this channel that we should not follow the hype, right? Whatever people are buying, not saying those products are not good, which you'll see later in the next boom, where some of the stuff people were buying were actually really good investments. But there are definitely opportunities out there in this huge market that some people are overlooking certain cards and sets
Yeah.
because they're so focused on what's hot right now. And what's hot back then was anything that contained a Charizard, anything that had a base set Charizard reprint, and anything that was ultra modern. So, well, I mean, this is ultra modern too. I remember people were saying Unified Mind was a really bad set. Now, I think Unified Mind's seen as one of the best sets of all time, including all the other tag team sets, Cosmic, Unbroken Bonds, and obviously Team Up. In my opinion, Team Up has always been top 3, top 5 all time in terms of all the Pokemon sets. And it's very short printed. But no one cared about Team Up at the time.
No, they
I
did
believe
not.
it was going for under $250.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember buying Team Up for about $400 to $500 at the time, and I thought I was crazy, but I guess it worked out. So we booming, Celestial TCG. Thank you for the $5. So excited for the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the support. And Poke-san and I really enjoy doing this because we like sharing our knowledge and connecting with the community and bringing things to the community's attention, and for no other reason but because we really care about it. And you know, we've done a lot of things in the past that are not like ideal for us personally or for our businesses, but solely because if we don't talk about it and other people won't, then no one will bring it to the attention to the hobby. So we
Right.
appreciate the support that you guys have for us, and we'll continue to do this. You know, neither one of us are gonna, you know, start any courses on investing. We just do this out of passion, and this is not our primary source of income. It's just a way for us to kind of like support our card collecting journey, right?
Yes,
So
exactly. It's a journey.
yeah, this is we're not paying our mortgages selling Pokemon cards. Well, even though my wife has a shop, but you know what I'm saying. We're doing this because
Yes.
we're passionate about the community and we're passionate about the investment side of anything. So we want to get that information out there. All right. So in 2020 and 21, after we finish talking about the seal side, what do we buy in terms of the singles and slabs? As you can see, every single Charizard out there, there were so many Charizards during that time. Pokemon Company got the message. Like, okay, if we pack every set with Charizard, people are going to go crazy for them. And that is why, I do believe that is why Umbreon has overtaken Charizard in the last 2 years as kind of like the #1 card that Pokemon that people chase, because Charizard fatigue was a real thing. I firmly believe if they didn't do this in those 2-3 years, Charizard should still be like as popular, if not more popular than Umbreon. It just everyone got fatigued. I think we're reaching Umbreon fatigue now. So
Yeah.
it's important to talk about what's the next Charizard and next Umbreon, which we kind of teased in our stories where CJ was saying
Yes.
was the Mew, the Bubble Mew's going up.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
off topic, but at the
Yes.
time, 2020 and 21, the 2 Charizards from Champion's Path, the Rainbow Charizard and the Shining Charizard V, the Hidden Fates Charizard GX, that was crazy. PSA 10, I believe there was a PSA 10 for what? It was like 3,000-4,000 at the time at its highest,
It was
or higher.
crazy. I mean, Black Label was even higher than that. It was
Was
like
Black
record
Label was
breaking.
12K.
Yeah, something crazy
Yeah.
like that. It made headlines all across
Yeah.
social media. Everyone
Exactly.
wanted it. Everyone wanted it. So everyone was scalping Hidden Fates at that time.
Yeah, and the Shining Fates Charizard VMAX, in my opinion, one of the coolest Charizard cards. It was pretty easy to pull, and it was $700 raw at release, I remember. And right now, what a PSA 10 is $400 still, $400 or $500.
300-400. Yeah, not that
Yeah,
much.
something like that. Everyone was killing it for the fat Charizard, the shiny fat Charizard. Yeah,
I
the
remember.
Rainbow Pikachu, everyone's going crazy because it's so hard to pull at the time. It was like when Rainbows were first introduced, that card was like $1,000 in a PSA 10 too.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now it's less than half of that, I believe.
Yeah.
Every Evolution's Charizard, and obviously the vintage for the people that have more budget. The base set and unlimited Charizard, famously, the PSA 9 went for, I think, $5,000. Right, and then went back down to 800, and now I think we're back up at like 15 to 2,000 now. But at the time, that was a vintage indicator because everyone was trying to get the first edition Charizard. If they can't afford it, they would get the Shadowless and the Unlimited, and then the reprints for Evolutions and Celebrations. So anything that had a base set Charizard artwork went crazy during this time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Back
So
then, when I didn't know any better, I actually bought a PSA 10, that Rainbow Charizard from Shiny Fates, for like 900. And so I've
wow,
learned my lesson since then.
yeah,
So all the things that I'm preaching now are from my prior experiences and past mistakes.
yeah. Exactly. At the time, I remember I bought like a PSA 8 Shadowless Charizard for like 6K or something like that. Or PSA, yeah, it was like a PSA or PSA 7. So definitely learned my lesson because at the time we were just trying to chase. Like to me, I was like, this is vintage. It's been out of print for 20 something years. It's got to go up, right? It's
Right.
not true. There's many times
No.
that you have to sit back and look what is driving this crazy appreciation, crazy market change. And when everyone is looking at something, most of the time, it's not always true. It's already too late for you to buy it from an investment standpoint. But again, if you were buying it for your personal collection and it has sentimental value to you, then it really doesn't matter. And there's a lot of cards that I bought for a lot more money than it is worth today that that I don't regret and that I will never sell. But we still want to get the information out there so you understand what you're buying and what is undervalued propositions and opportunities in the market in 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, next slide. So what everybody could have bought. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. Most of the stuff that people didn't buy that was overlooking is the tag team sets. And this was right around the time when tag team was being released. And people were completely forgetting about it as soon as the Sword and Shield era came and there's a bunch of Charizards and Pikachus. At these at the time, these tag team cards, we're not just talking about the alt arts, but like the regular tag team cards, $1 each, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were
Oh, yeah.
many of them were under $5. A lot of them are under $10. And even these alt arts are going for like $10, $20. I like the Latias Audios, I believe, was the most expensive. It was like 150 to 200. But these cards were readily available at every card shop. Like people were selling them in their $1, $2 bulk boxes. And what are they worth now? Most of them are like $50, $100, $200. Like there's a lot of these regular GXs, like the regular Gengar Mimikyu GX. You know, that's like a regular ultra rare. That card is what, like $500 raw or $300 raw?
Which one?
The regular Gengar Mimikyu GX.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah, that's like a few
remember.
$100 now. At the time, I remember I bought a couple for like $3 or $5. Right? These were not hard to find, even though
Oh,
the
yeah.
tag team era sets were short printed compared to nowadays. But at the time, no one was really tripping over themselves trying to find it. So if you bought those cards, you would have seen an exponential gain, unlike most of the cards that we just featured in the last slide, where
Right.
majority of them went down over 50% from its peak. Some of it's still down 50% from its peak now at the next boot. So, yeah.
Do you still think there's a lot more room for tag team to grow, especially those
I
singles?
I do think there is room, but I wouldn't put my money into tag teams if I were investing. And this is something else we'll talk about later, which is my personal struggles with balancing my collector mind and my investor mind. Because a lot of things I collect, I
Yeah.
don't personally think is a good investment at current prices. But I'm buying them because I'm not looking to sell them. I'm looking to have them in my collection. So we will talk about some of that later. But I don't think they're currently at the current price the best things to buy. Not because I don't think they'll continue to appreciate. I think in the long term they will. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of other stuff that is a lot more
Right.
available, and you would have opportunity cost not buying those cards, buying into these cards. The same way
Right.
I said about the Moonbrowns 6 to 8 months ago, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, Grounder just said, I've just checked my vintage slab. Kabutops is less than it was in 2020. There is a lot of cards that are still worth a lot less now than it was in 2020. So unlike what people say about Pokemon cards, everything always goes up. That's not true. In the general sense, the sealed product will all eventually appreciate, but there's a lot of stuff that was really hyped up at the time, especially the slabs and singles. that have reached exponentially high marks where most likely in our lifetime they'll never reach again. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's why we wanted to make this video.
Yep. Some of the vintage may not move like some of the modern slabs. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Like I bought a first edition Charizard base set, first edition PSA 6 for like 8,000 during the peak, and now it's just like about that right now. So it hasn't moved at all.
Yeah. And when you say it doesn't move, like that's opportunity cost for your capital not to put it in the stock market or put it in some high yield savings account, some index fund, or in other modern seal product, right? Well, you factor in the opportunity cost, you've lost a lot of money.
I have, yes. One of the lessons I learned, and I'm like, you know,
Yes.
definitely learning from all my past mistakes, and I've made a
That's-
lot of mistakes, guys. So
That's
stay tuned for
right.
more mistakes made by me.
Yeah, we'll continue to make mistakes. I feel like one of the main things that I want to differentiate our channel from some of the other investment focused channels is the fact that we talk about our losses and we talk about selling and buying and not just focusing on seal product. It's really easy to say, like Rudy or Nostalgianomics, we love them by the way, but it's
Yes.
kind of easy for other people to follow what they do and be like, yeah, just buy modern seal. It's so boring, right? Like if you don't touch on singles, you don't touch on slabs, you don't touch on other languages, you don't touch on promos, you don't touch on trophies. It's easy to just put out a blanket statement and be like, hey, just keep buying booster box cases, keep them in your attic, and you're good. That's true, but that's so boring, right? We're Pokemon collectors. We want to be buying stuff that not only will appreciate, but things that we enjoy. So to us, this is still value, not just value investing, but value collecting as well.
I love that.
All right, we have Westery88 says, my takeaway is maybe since SV is going away, try to get some Sword and Shield sets that are goated like Crown Zenith. Maybe it's the equivalent Cosmic Eclipse. Hey, spoiler alert, I agree. Crown Zenith is my favorite set of all time, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we have Grounder saying, great talk. I've been taking a bit of a step back since it's been so frothy. Do you guys dabble in other categories? I'm into retro games. I personally want to like concentrate most of my collection dollars in Pokemon cards. It's like nostalgic to me. It's how I connect with my childhood. I do collect, well, I spend a lot of money on cards too. That's my other passion. But I don't invest in cards. So I would say collecting wise, most of it is in Pokemon cards. What about you, Lee?
I don't really dabble in the other categories because I'm trying to deploy all my capitals and funds into something that I'm familiar with, that I, you know, have researched and have experience in. And to start something completely different like games or other TCGs, that would just, you know, send me back a little bit, and I wouldn't be able to accomplish some of the goals that I set for myself for Pokemon collecting and investing.
Yeah, basically, we're still trying to catch them all.
Exactly. Well said.
Yeah. All right. So we're heading into the next boom that's less talked about in the English community because most of this is happening with the introduction of mainland China and simplified Chinese in the Chinese market and in Southeast Asia like Singapore, Malaysia. During this time, there's a huge boom over there. What they experienced in 23 and 24 is kind of like what we experienced in 20 and 21. And I can tell you, it's just as crazy, if not crazier. And a lot of that have like kind of like spilled over to North America as well, because you see a lot of these vendors going to every show flipping ponchos like they're gold or like better than cold hard cash. Basically, people are using ponchos as like currency at these shows, right? So around this time, what people were buying are the waifus. The waifus were crazy. And I can tell you, like the regular Sun and Moon waifu, the Lily, the set card Lily that you can pull from a set, was like $15,000 in a 10 at one point. Right? That card was like $200 just a few months before. And there were waifus that went up like 20x because a lot of the people from mainland China, they don't have nostalgia towards the Pokemon IP with like the way that we do, like the Pokemons, like the Pikachu, Charizard, Lugias of the world. They entered into the hobby. They're super passionate, just like us, but they more gravitated towards the character cards, the cool female characters.
Right. I
So
remember.
everyone was jumping on the waifu train. And at the time, I remember I was telling my Chinese friends, because I'm Chinese and both of us are Chinese, right? So
Me too.
we're not
Yeah.
saying there's anything wrong with it. But at the time, we were warning our friends in these Chinese group chats that, hey, like we went through this with Charizard's last boom, right? These waifu cards will go down 70, 80%. And, you know, I got destroyed in the chat. So like, oh my God, like you're just jealous you don't have any waifus. And that's what happened. Most of these waifu cards went down. And the same thing was kind of happening with the Moonbryons and the English alt arts at the time in North America. And the Moonbryon went from $150 raw at its release in 21 to really, really high. Well, at the time, it went up to 3-4K, which we're kind of like back now. But people were buying Moonbryons and all these alt arts like they were gold stars, the way that we see them now. And yeah, so both sides of the market, obviously ponchos. And like I said, we're not saying every single one of these investments that people bought into is a bad investment. Like EV Heroes and 151, they were at its peak. They came down a little bit. Now they're back to like kind of like where they were. Ponchos, obviously, for variety of reasons, is still going crazy. And the alt arts have dropped and came back up. You know what? Like the way that we said is we don't see much growth beyond the $3,000-$4,000 price point for Moonbryons, but it's still hovering around the same. You know, went back down to like 2,000. Now it's back to like 3,000, I think. But people were buying these. We're not saying they're complete mistakes, but we're saying compared to what they could have bought, these were not the best, except for Poncho. Ponchos actually continue to go up, but you know, you and I both think there's something fishy going on with these cards. And
Yeah.
not because we don't like ponchos. I actually like ponchos. Like we're gonna release a video on CJ's new channel talking about the 20 of our favorite slabs in our collection, not value-wise, our favorite. And a poncho made the top 10. So
Nice.
you know, we don't hate ponchos.
No.
We just think there's something fishy going on with these modern promos.
Yep. And I also just pulled up the Battle Day Lily trainer. Remember how you went for
Yes.
43,000 and then later on it came down all the way down to 7,000 from 40.
That was a 9. A 10 went for 250K.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
significant drop. Somebody lost
But then again,
30 plus.
the Battle Day waifus were like a very limited event card. So I still see the merit to those cards being super rare, even though, you know, I don't have any connections with Pokemon waifus, but I understand why people want to collect them. But there's a lot of set, like any set waifu, like any new set that came out, the number one card from these new set cards were not Pokemons. They were waifus. That's what really like bothered me, because I'm like, there is no way this is sustainable. Because if you look at the price list of the top 10 most expensive cards from new sets around that 2023 era, it's top 3 are all waifus in every set at the time, which made no sense to me, right? So during this boom, an alternative of what you could have bought instead of these cards were these, right? This is, again, a lot of this is very similar with our last slide for the 21s. The Sun and Moon era booster boxes, which were extremely short printed for English Pokemon TCG compared to now, compared to modern, were still readily available at a much higher price point than it was in 2021, but they were still, team up was like $1,500, $1,000 to $1,500. Cosmics was hovering around the $500-$600 range. Unified Minds was like $250, $300. Same with Unbroken Bonds was like $500 at the time. These sets, even though they were much higher than MSRP and much higher than 2021, they were still readily available at a price where people are buying the modern booster boxes at release now, right? So you could have bought those. You could have bought, famously, all the Sword and Shield era sets, except for Evolving Skies, at or below MSRP. These were still available on Pokemon. Fusion Strike was still available on Pokemon Center in February of 2024, I think, right? Fusion Strike and Lost Origin, Brilliant Stars, that block, which we will talk about later, I still think they're underrated now because of the trainer galleries. Severely
Oh yeah,
underrated.
trainer
So
galleries. Yeah.
if you're looking for the next tag team, not the current tag teams because they're already expensive, you're looking for the next tag teams, spoiler alert, maybe you should look at some of these older Sword and Shield era sets or the later Sword and Shield era sets and
Right.
look into the stuff that's still like $2, $3, $5, $6, which they have the potential to grow to $30, $40, $50 raw in a few years, just like the tag teams did now,
Exactly.
right? Again, all of these sets that you see in the picture on the left-hand side, we're still at $100 to $200, right? Including everything that's not Evolving Skies, Lost Origin, Fusion Strike, Chilling Reign. They were under MSRP, so you could have bought those. Now they're 4, 5, 6, 7x MSRP. And like we said at the time, instead of putting all your money into Moonbryons, what you could have done is put it into vintage Pokemon. It was at its absolute lows, right? Anything that's not a 10 was like 50, $60 for most of the vintage Pokemon cards. And that includes the EX era stuff. That includes Skyridge. Like the Gengar and Umbreon at the time were $2,000, $3,000 in a PSA 10, right? I believe I bought a couple of Gengar PSA 10s for $3,000 to $4,000 USD. Same with the Umbreon from Skyridge. I bought, I think, 2 of them at 4K at around the middle or beginning of 2024, right?
I
One of
bought
them,
one for about 5K, so
yeah,
1,000 more than you did. But yeah,
around that time. And, we crossed some to tag, some to CGC Pristines. And, right now, the PSA 10 Umbreon from Skyridge is what, like 15 to 20K? And I believe Gengar, I just saw somebody post something, and I just sold for like 25.
oh
So,
wow, what? It's
yeah,
crazy growth.
it's crazy growth. Right at the time, there were 3K, and I had multiple copies just because I thought it was the coolest looking Gengar card. So you could have put
Wow.
your money into the Gengar, which is the same price as the Moonbreon at the time, but you would have like 7x your money now. So
Yeah,
there's a
but it's
lot of
definitely
opportunity.
very hard for people back in 2023, 24 to be looking into those vintage, high-end vintage labs. 3 to 4K at that time. I feel like people are probably, like you said, looking at something else.
Yeah. Clem is saying, comparing apples and oranges, even during the boom, people talking like this, nothing changes. Well, we're not really trying to change anything. We were just talking about like what you could have done hypothetically at the time and like learning from those mistakes and the lessons we learned from history, applying how you can find the most bang for your buck, the most undervalued part of the hobby for you to either collect or invest in, right? So we're not really trying to change anything. Like we're not advocating for anyone to not buy or buy something. Like make your own decision. This is not financial advice. We're just sharing our experiences and what we learned. Could have bought base up booster boxes for 140. 500 was a steal. I thought we were near the top 3-4 months ago. So I do think we were at the top 3-4 months ago in terms of modern, and it's true. A lot of the modern stuff have been coming down in price, like the prismatic evolutions, singles. A lot of the alt arts came down. A lot of the they'll continue to come down. Like the ponchos have come down a little bit. So again, like it's we're not talking about the entire market. We're talking about just segments of the market, and there's ups and downs for everything. Yeah, and also like not to mention the gold stars. I was buying gold stars like crazy around this time, 23 and 24, and PSA 10s, 9s, CGC 10s, CGC Pristine 10s, BGS 9.5s, Beckett 10s. Like we were buying every gold star above a 9 that we could see, literally everything. Like we spent probably like millions of dollars buying gold stars, and obviously a lot of it went to CJ Shop inventory. I remember we did some accounting and we looked at all the stuff that we did. We sold CJ Shop sold 14 Gold Star Rayquazas above PSA 9 in 24. And I don't think a lot of shops did that, but we were buying them for our collection the high grades, like the PSA 10s and above, the
Mhm.
CGC Pristine 10s, the Pristine Gold Stars, what we're known for. But also, we were buying a lot for CJ Shop's inventory because the things that didn't make our collection went into our shop. We just thought it would be such a cool thing to display because going into a shop, it's not all about like buying something. It's an experience, almost like walking into a museum, like a card show where you can see gold stars. I just thought like being able to see gold stars at a shop was such a cool thing because I
Yeah.
wanted to see it back in 05, 06 when I was 12 years old.
I know, that
So
was
we
your
had a lot of
niche.
those. Yeah. But people
That w
don't remember how cheap gold stars were just like a few months ago. Like in
They're
24,
so
late
cheap.
24, like I believe we bought a gold star Mewtwo for PSA 10 for like 3,500. We bought a
Wow.
bunch of Gold Star Mewtwo's trying to cross the CGC Pristine 10. None of them did. And then I ended up buying our CGC Pristine 10 Gold Star Mewtwo for like 5,000. Now Gold Star Mewtwo's in a PSA 10, I believe, is like 15K. And
Yeah.
almost every PSA 10 Gold Star is a 5-figure card, except for the legendary dogs because of the history of them being stolen.
Exactly.
And people don't remember, but even the Vaporeons, the Jolteons, like those PSA 10s were like 3K. The Kyogres, the Groudons, they were like 2 to 4K for the majority of the Gold Star eras. For the majority of the PSA 10 Gold Stars, like 2 to 5K for most of them, except for the Rayquaza, the Hoenn starters, the Charizard, and the Umbreon and Espeon. Every single one of them was under 5K, I believe. So yeah, there was a lot of opportunity then, and we were saying that it was undervalued for a long time.
Yeah, I remember all the IG story posts you had with CJ of, I want, but you gotta buy gold stars, gold star, like all these buy posts. So I just remember that period of time where you were really into gold stars, and now it exploded, and everyone is hashtag gold star, gold rush, and I thought that was pretty unique.
Yeah, Clam is super mad. I mean, yeah, you cherry picking data, isolating outlier examples. Well, I mean, you're welcome to make your own podcast and talk about your opinions, right? I mean, everything we talked about so far, I don't think anything was controversial. We're still talking about what we
What
learned
happened?
from the past, right? What's already happened,
Yep.
right? I mean, if you don't like watching our content, you're welcome to just click away, right? Like we welcome educated and discussion, and we've been wrong many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
No
mean, if
one is
you're gonna be
100%
super
right on
negative,
everything.
yeah, you're gonna be super negative. You don't have to be here, right? Okay, I feel like the Collecticon market has stagnated. Lots of buyers scared off from cards priced significantly over market. Many vendors put out stuff are not selling because it's gonna go up. That is true. So, oh, and he had a previous comment saying, "What do you guys think about speculating copying low pop cards? I've seen vendors push these type of cards for thousands over market." So that is one of the. Okay, so I'm gonna go off topic a little bit. I'm gonna kind of like vet a tiny bit because vendors really frustrate me, and I really dislike. I'm part of this. I'm not being a hypocrite because I'm like that too. Because I see myself in different buckets of the Pokemon hobby, but people that are in different parts, right? They only see the entire ecosystem of what's right in front of them as the entire ecosystem, right? So the vendors and the people that go to shows often refer to certain things as, oh, if the vendors don't sell these or the vendors don't want it, then it's worthless. Example
Mm-hmm.
being CGC Pristine 10s. My friend rarely minted. He had a big CGC Pristine 10 collection. Apparently, he started because he watched some of my content back in the day. But he had like a 300K CGC Pristine 10 collection that he priced out at like 50 to 200%, 150 to 200% PSA 10s. And he was going to a few vendors at shows, and people were offering him raw prices because they said, your high-end Pristine 10s are worth raw because people don't want them at shows. You know what he ended up selling? He ended up selling the entire set for 75% over PSA 10 for like 350K.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, just because people in your circle or like your part of the hobby don't like certain things doesn't
Right.
mean that's the truth. That is only a small part of the truth. Same with the people on Facebook Marketplace, for example. There are people on Facebook Marketplace that started knowing about me in 23 because I didn't make a Facebook Marketplace account before 23. I was just collecting privately, and most of the big collectors already know who I am. But the Facebook Marketplace people didn't know me, so they claimed that this Jesse guy came out of nowhere. He's just some rich kid that doesn't know anything about Pokemon because they haven't heard my name.
Mm-hmm.
So in their mind, they think if you're not in the Facebook groups, then you don't exist, right? That is also a very short-sighted way of looking at things. And then obviously there's the other people that are in the high-end market where they claim that only low pop vintage trophies or vintage cards, these are the only cards that matter. Everything else sucks. Again, I might be part of that group a little bit before. So I'm not saying I'm like not guilty of this. I'm saying we're all kind of like part of certain subgroups, and we only see what's right in front of us, which is why like I really hate seeing a lot of these vendors and people that go to shows claim that if anything sells in shows, which are like the ponchos and gold stars, those cards are worth money and they're great investments. Anything that doesn't sell at vendors, then they're worthless. That's not true.
A lot of new vendors don't even know what a Snap Articuno is or what a Trophy Cane is. So I would not trust what they have to say. Because majority of them are not educated about the market.
Yeah. Clown says hindsight of 2020 doesn't mean history repeats itself every time. That's not what we're saying. We can take lessons from what happened in the past and apply it to the market today, right? Again, you don't agree with us, that's totally fine. You don't have to listen to this. How will you guys go about selling vintage shadowless commons and uncommons? A collector has $67. No vendor wants to take them. Again, this is us talking about the vendor situation again. There's many places you can sell them. You can sell them Facebook Marketplace. You can consign them at shops. You can sell them to shops. You can sell them on Instagram. You can sell them on whatnot. There's many different places to sell them. You don't have to go to a show and sell it to a vendor. The vendors will only take cards that move quickly, that are very liquid. So it's understandable why they're not taking certain cards, right? They're only taking the cards that they know the market of and they know the customer base. But again, like I said, the vendors and the shows they don't represent the entire hobby. They are a small percentage of the hobby. I almost equate these vendors at shows to be like sneakerheads, like people that flip sneakers back in the day. Those are the same guys that started flipping Pokemon cards. So if you guys come into the hobby, you go to a couple shows and you think, oh, if the vendor don't want them, they're worth nothing, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble because you're going to make a lot of decisions based on incomplete data. So
exactly. Yeah. I would try to expand to other like selling platforms or online secondary markets such as Facebook, Discord, and other places to sell those commons and uncommons, because it's going to be hard. Vendors are there for quick flips, and that's not going to give them that. It's not going to achieve that objective. Yeah.
I sold Pokemon Posted. I sold my base set box back in 23 for $13K. I was putting the money into Sword and Shield booster box cases or getting into niche high-end stuff like sealed Pokemon Game Boys and Santa Cruz gold boards. I don't know anything about last two. I should have chosen booster box cases. Yes, well, the base set box is now like 25 to 30K, so it did appreciate, but definitely not more than the Sword and Shield era booster box cases that you selected. So those on average, I think, have went up 5 to 6x since 23. So I mean, that's great investment, and don't look back because you probably, you probably like your Game Boys, vintage Game Boys.
Yeah.
That's why you put your money into it. So don't always think of everything as a strict equation and formula. We're not buying stocks, right? We're buying stuff we're passionate about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Rounder says makes sense. Thanks. I like the 151 UPC, but it costs a lot. I also like Prismatic because of the playmat. See, like there's certain things that you buy that's not fully because you think it'll go up in value, because you like collecting. And we'll talk about my struggles with that later too. And 151 UPCs, everyone ignored during late 23 to early 24. And people don't remember this because a lot of people came in during this time, right? But 151 UPCs that now people are elbowing each other and punching kids in the face to get at Costco, they were sitting for months. There's a good 3-4 months where I see pallets of 151 UPCs. And CJ and I, every week we go buy groceries from Costco, we would get 10, right? We're not scalping them. We were just seeing them sitting there. We would buy like 5 to 10 151 UPCs for like $100 every week. And we did that for like at least 3 months. So this is what we're talking about. What they could have bought in 23 and 24 were these. And again, like if you look at some of our storage room, you would think this is like we're scalping. We're not scalping. We only bought them because no one wanted them. We have not since lined up at Costco to get any of these because we think the collectors that really want them are the scalpers. Like they deserve it more than we do. We don't have time to elbow people and line up for months.
Yeah, nobody wanted
them. We were buying them. No one wanted them.
No.
So
they were sitting on store shelves, pallets of them.
Exactly.
For $85.
Now they were like $300 to $400 or $500. At the time, they were $100 and sitting.
It's crazy, huh?
Yeah. All right. So now, finally, we're going to talk about the current market and what everybody is buying in 25 versus what we are buying. Again, we're not influencing you to buy what we buy. As I'll talk about later, some of the stuff I'm buying is not because I think it'll go up in value, but it's because I'm collecting for my personal collection. But people are buying right now gold stars like crazy, ponchos still. They've gone on and bought a lot of the modern booster boxes that were going crazy because they were short printed at the time. Some of them were, some of them weren't, but like Surging Sparks, Destined Rivals, Prismatic Evolutions. I haven't put Prismatic here. I don't know why, but Prismatic Evolutions. And now tag teams. As you can see this graphic, what you should have bought in 21, everyone is buying now. That's why even the regular GXs are like $20, $30, $50, $100 now. All right. So this is what everybody is buying. And again, we're not saying every single one of these buys are bad because as you can see from before, some of them are good investments. But they're not the best because there's overlooked areas in the market that can generate higher returns or buying for you as a collector at a lower price point, entry point. And it's hard for me to say if stars like don't buy them right now because I'm like literally one of the biggest, if not the biggest English gold star collector in the world, right? We have
you are
mountains of gold stars. So for me to say don't go crazy on the gold stars right now is against my benefit, against my financial interests, right? But I'm saying it because I do think right now is a good time to sell your gold stars. Long-term wise, I'm still holding most of my gold stars, right? Long-term wise, gold stars are still undervalued in the grand scheme of things. Well, not undervalued, but in the long term, it will still go up. But in the short term, I don't see them doing what they're doing the last like 6 months or so. So it's a good time for you to consolidate your collection, sell some gold stars for that one card that you really want, right? And if you're buying gold stars to invest, now is not the right time, in my opinion, because I do foresee a correction, not an aggressive correction, but maybe stagnation and a mild correction coming in the future.
Yeah. What is Jesse buying?
Yeah, so this is what I have been buying and what I'm continuing to buy.
Juicy.
I am very, very bullish on celebrations because if you can see the trends of the previous anniversary sets, every time the next anniversary set comes out, kind of like the previous ones went crazy, like the Generations ECB. I remember right before 2016 during the Pokemon Go era when I first came back into the hobby, they were really cheap before then. It was like $100. Nobody wanted them. Right? And then as soon as 2021 came about, like they went up to like $800. And it was not a very well-received set at the time, like before this crazy increase happened. But there's something about the next anniversary set comes out that really brings a lot of attention to the last one. And I think the 25th anniversary set celebrations was being underappreciated because the classic collection is relatively a smaller set, and there was a lot of people that were buying them at the time. So not as many people cared about celebrations, and now people are drawing attention to it because obviously there's a lot of manipulation going on with the Pro and the Greninja. Gold Star.
I
But
remember.
I mean, that's now a $200 card in a PSA 10 and a Tag 10. But even that Pikachu, that forward Pikachu, do you remember how easy it was to pull that card? We had one or two in every single one of these ETBs.
Didn't
was
sell
a
for a crazy
50
price at
Yeah, that card is a 50-cent card for many years. But did you see a PSA 10 sold for like 1,200 recently?
Oh, I thought it was 500, but 1,200, that's
Or maybe 1,200 like Canadian or something. But yeah,
wow.
it was
That's still a
definitely
lot.
hundreds of dollars. Granted, that is a hard card to grade
Crazy.
because there's a lot of, most of them are, I went through a lot of our bulk, and most of them, I would say 90% of them wouldn't 10. So maybe that's why. But that
Yeah.
card shouldn't be a $500 card in a 10 because of how easy it is to pull. And
I'm
again,
gonna
like a lot of the classic collection, like the Umbreon Gold Stars, like the Magic card, Shiny Magic cards, like those cards were like $5 to $15 for the longest time. Now they're finally being appreciated because they are reprints of some of the most significant cards of the hobby. And I do see long-term potential of Celebrations, and it will continue to go up once the anniversary hit next year. I bought 70 ETBs over the last like 2 months, obviously at a lower price point than it is now. But I still think around $220 USD where you can buy them now is still a pretty good buy. Like I bought most of mine at like 150 to like 180, 150 to 200, but I think $220 to $250 is still a pretty good entry point for Celebrations.
Did you get loose ETBs or did you get cases?
I got cases, well, mostly cases, mostly sealed cases.
I
And
see.
yeah, well, I try for the stuff that I put away in our investment portfolio. If we can get sealed cases, we get sealed cases, which
Yeah.
is causing me a lot of trouble because we'll talk about this later. But looking at sealed cases is the most exciting thing in the world.
It's not.
You're
But
never gonna display your sealed case.
But it's when I look on those cases on eBay or the secondary market, there's just not very many of them available.
Yeah,
I just can't find very many.
we bought 5 cases from distribution at 269 Canadian, which is like 190 USD, I think, recently when they just released like a price list of everything they're scalping at market price. There's nothing you can buy at distributors for wholesale anymore. It's pretty much all market price.
Market price.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So they withheld a lot of Celebrations cases from back in the day when they were able to offer us, I think 5 or 6 sealed cases of them recently, and that's where we got the majority of our sealed Celebrations. And then we have maybe like another 30 or 40 loose ETBs that we've stored over the years. And I just think it's also like a pretty cool set to open in 5 to 10 years if I want to. And Crown Zenith, again, I've talked about this many times. It's my favorite set of all time. The artwork in Crown Zenith is just like peak Pokemon to me. I think it's as good as it was back in the Gold Star days, you know, with how amazing the artwork is. Not just like the glaring gallery, like the ones that are full arts, but even the regular arts. They're just gorgeous. And one of my favorite cards of all time, the Suicune from Galarian Galleries in that set. So, you know, I'm buying as many Crown Zenith ETBs as I can. They're at like $180, $170 right now. I still think they have a long way to go if you were to buy them as investment. But for me, I just bought a bunch of them because I think when I'm 50 or 60 or 70 years old, when they're like $5,000 each, I would like to open some. You know, Uncle Jesse, old man Jesse would want to relive his childhood, or I mean, well, not, but my younger days by opening Crown Zenith. So yeah, I'm just stashing away as many as I can.
Yeah.
And same thing with Paldean Fates. It was an underrated set at the time. But the Shiny Charizard GX, which in my opinion, the coolest looking Charizard in the Sword and in the Scarlet Violet block. That's not even the most expensive card in the set. The most expensive card in the set is the Bubble Mew, which CJ called the next Umbreon like 6 or 7 months ago, and now it's becoming like it's getting up there in price. So people are sleeping on Paldean Fates. Well, I mean, no longer sleeping. It's now creeping up to $200. But we bought
Mhm.
a lot at like $60, $70 like 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Now we're still buying a lot at like low hundreds. And I think that set, well, now it's, you have to spend a lot more. I think $180 or $190. But I still think at that price point, it's still a buy just because of how great the set is. You know, it's got the whole baby shiny gallery with Pikachu and Raichu in there. And even though those cards are not worth a lot of money, I still think it's cool to pull like 5 or 10 years down the road.
Oh yeah, that Bubble Mew is like becoming the most expensive alt art in SV era, isn't it? It's like 600, and it's looking like it's climbing and climbing. It could get to 1,000.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will. And I've been buying all the tag team era booster boxes. I think
Oof.
right now it's probably a bit high. But Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds are still like in the ballpark of like $2,000 to $3,000. So
Mhm.
compared to Team Up, where it's like 10,000 and Cosmic at like 45 or 5,000, I think those two sets are still a good buy. But we bought most of our, like we bought a bunch of Team Up at 3,500 Canadian, which is like 2,500 USD, like 4 or 5 months ago. We bought a bunch of Team Up at that price. Right before it went crazy, we bought a couple cases of Unbroken Bonds at, I believe, 5,000 a case. 5,000 a case. Now they're like 3,000, like around 3K a booster box now, right? Unbroken Bonds, like
2,500 right now.
2,500. So we bought a bunch of cases for 5K about 4 or 5 months ago.
Oh wow, that was smart.
Yeah, so I've been buying a lot of these tag team era sets because if you look at the data of Pokemon, like they don't tell you what the print run is, but you can find data of how many cards they printed per year. I don't know if we can pull that up right now and see if we can find it. But I remember it was like 21 to 24. It averages around like 10 billion cards printed. And in 2019, 2020 was like 4 million. 2019 it was like 1.5 million, and there was like 2 million before, 1 million before. So around the time when the tag team sets came out, they were printing like under 2 billion, well, not million, 2 billion cards per year, which is less than 20% of how many cards they print nowadays, meaning the print run is at least 5x less. So these sets, they're being opened a lot. And obviously the cards like Latias Latios, people are saying it's low pop. It's not low pop. It's like 1,800 or 2,000 in PSA 10. It's low pop compared to the modern grails, like the Moonbreon being like 16 or 17,000. But still, comparatively and relatively, these are all beautiful eras, beautiful cards. They're relatively short printed compared to the Sword and Shield and Scarlet Violet era sets. So I was buying a lot of them.
Incredible.
And yeah, I do think tag team is the next Gold Stars. I mean, not the next Gold Stars, but I mean the relative comparison, popularity to
Yes.
Gold Stars. They'll never be Gold Stars because Gold Stars, the most of the pop for Gold Stars is under 100 for PSA 10s, and these tag teams are in the 1 to 2,000, but still,
I believe
relatively rare in modern.
Because in the future, if Pokemon ever decides to remake tag team again in a different way, I think that's when they will pop off majorly.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think it's worth paying a little premium on sealed cases, knowing I'll be holding long term? Last thing, I will open a bunch of loose boxes and find out they are resealed.
True.
So I only buy sealed cases from sources that I know I can trust, and it's not hard to get the provenance of these cases now because it's only in the last few years. So I only buy from distributors or other shops or like big collectors and investors or sellers that bought from distributors or reputable shops. But I don't really pay premiums on sealed cases. I just prefer them because I know like there's batching issues. I just like collecting sealed cases. I do think they do fetch a case premium for older sets like Evolving Skies, and the sets have gone up in value. But I currently don't really like to pay sealed case premiums. But I do know in the future they will command a premium because like it's almost like for sure untampered with, unscanned, unweighed, whatever, like new technology that comes out in 5 to 10 years. So I do like buying them, but I wouldn't really pay premium. What about you?
Same, yeah. I mean, I prefer cases because then I know that the condition, if I buy loose boxes, I'm afraid that the condition may not be as good as the ones that are already packaged inside the case. Some may be dented or its seal may have problems with loose boxes. So I like to buy the seal cases for the condition.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I would say a lot of these sealed cases, to me, I struggle with two things. So I think investment wise, sealed cases is definitely better. But display, I always like to have a couple loose boxes for every set so I can put them on my shelf or put them
Yeah,
on a display in the future. Again,
that's
it's so
true.
boring looking at a sealed case. So you see a wall of sealed
Yeah,
cases and you're like, look at
are boring.
second row. Those are evolving skies.
So
Like,
boring. Yeah, I
so
don't
boring.
know. I don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really not fun to display cases.
exactly. BGS 10 CJL said BGS 10 poncho will hold value well when the market go down. So that's what I talked about previously. I do think for modern cards, because PSA 10 has such a high gem rate, like most of the modern cards, all cards have like 70% gem rate across the board. And ponchos, most PSA 10s have like 80% plus gem rates. And BGS pristine 10s and CGC pristine 10s are relatively lower at like 30% or something. I think they're comparable. Those cards, in my opinion, in the long run, will perform better than the PSA 10s just because how easy it is to get PSA 10s. And yeah, so I do think it will hold its value better than PSA 10s, but will it hold its value when the market goes down? I do think it will go down collectively, but it will go down less than PSA 10s.
And Hidden Fates. You are also buying Hidden Fates.
Yeah, I was buying Hidden Face because I feel like that set went from the hottest set and one of the most appreciated sets of all time to because they had so many print runs, forgotten. And I just love buying sets that I know is good that's like not talked about and is forgotten. So I bought, quite a few of them at like $250 or $220 US, 200 to 250 USD, give or take. And I think now they're back to what, like 400 USD? Well, it's at an all-time high now, but they were
Yeah.
stagnant for like 4 years. From
Oh, they
2020
were
to like
so
24.
stagnant.
Yeah,
And the
they were.
promo, the trio, the legendary
Yeah,
bird trio promo, I think there was a huge buyout for that particular promo, and the price for that is like on the secondary market is like around 70 to 100.
yeah.
So that
That's
promo is really good
ridiculous. We
value.
had like 100 of those and sold them at like $5 a pop at the shop or something, or $3.
$5. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
yeah.
Goodness.
It was. I don't really fall into these buyouts because I think they're not organic. But I mean, it does show that there's a lot of demand with these sets, and there's a lot of not just shiny Pokemon, but I mean, there's a lot of popular Pokemon. There's a few tag teams, and they're like the birds. Everyone like was like Bean Hut and people are opening at the time were so tired of the birds. The birds are what, like $40 raw now, or something like the regular Birds GX or something crazy. But at the time, every time you pulled it, you kind of like just toss it to the side. It's like, oh my god, it's another one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that promo is now selling consistently for 100 on the secondary market. So and you can only get that promo from that Hidden Fates ETB. So I think it will still hold really good value over time. So I think that's an excellent buy.
Yeah. Growler says, what level of premium do you guys think for some really low pop cards? Like special delivery Bidoof and the PSA 10 is 2.8K, pop 956 versus PSA 9, pop 2000. So it's showing that it's relatively harder to grade because a lot of these promos were sent in just one package with no protection. So, but it's kind of crazy how like now we see like a card with a pop under 1000 being like super low pop is kind of like what people call it when if you had a pop 1000 vintage PSA 10, you'd be like, oh man, this is super high pop. So our perspectives have changed. But what level of premium? I'm not really sure what you mean by like premium compared to what. Like, can you elaborate a little bit? But I think 2800 is quite a bit for that card. I'm not a big fan of Bidoof. It does have a Charizard in there, so maybe that's why people like it.
Yeah, it's very exclusive to Pokemon Center purchases. So didn't you have to have a code or something? Or
Yeah, something like that. And it was just printed less because less people wanted it. Again, like the population is not a direct correlation with the price and desirability, because desirability drives the price more than the population and the rarity. But like those two go hand in hand, supply and demand, right? But the demand, the desirability is the first and foremost. As you can see with Evolving Skies, that set is printed a lot. But for Evolving Skies and Moonbryon, it seems like the pop and how common it is has less effect on its price and market than the desirability and just how crazy of a demand that set has. So I wouldn't just put my money on a bunch of special delivery Bidoof just because it's harder to grade and print it less, because there's also a smaller market looking to buy them in the long term. But that's just my opinion. I could totally be wrong. Yeah, PSA 10 with swirls. Yeah, I think it depends on where the swirl is placed. The swirls around the mouth, super cool. I have a couple of those that I'm willing to pay a premium. But it's just like a random swirl here and there. I would maybe a slight premium, but yeah, I don't see it as like a huge premium long term. Okay, I'm just gonna go through what I'm buying in terms of singles and slabs. Again, these are the things that I'm buying right now. That's not necessarily meaning like I think all of them will go up. Some of them I do. Some of them is for my personal collection. Like I am buying a full, like me and my group of friends, like our friends, we call ourselves a tag team GX because we're a bunch of friends. We love tag teams and we're tag fans, right? And I'm an investor. So we're trying to collect the full tag 10 tag team set in terms of all the tag team all arts as a group. And we're buying a bunch of PSA 10s and cracking them. Half of them didn't cross. So financially, not the smartest decision in the world, but that is kind of like the next set I really wanted to complete. But the one before was this pristine Gold Star set, which is like an impossible task. But this one is a little bit easier to do, but still really expensive because I'm buying a lot of PSA 10s and cracking them. So that I'm buying purely for my personal collection, not for anything else. The things that I'm buying, and the Tag8 Illustrator, originally owned by Nishida. That's one of the bigger purchases we had in the last little bit. I've been pretty vocal about thinking that the Illustrator was overrated for a long time, just because they're not as like rare as people say they were. But at the price point I was buying, and knowing that Akabane's stack was exhausted and there's no more, I felt like because of how iconic it is and because it was designed by Nishida, the original designer of Pikachu, it had upside at the price point I was buying it at. And as you can see, they've gone up quite a bit. And that card, I have to say, when you own one, you hold one in person, it has a presence unlike any other card.
Beautiful piece, gorgeous masterpiece.
Love the purchase. The other cards I really wanted to talk about, I actually talked about this. I like unintentionally made the market go up a little bit for the Call of Legends Shiny Vault, because I remember when I talked about it before, I was looking to buy the PSA 10s, and full disclosure, I still only have the Suicune. I wasn't able to buy any of the other ones because of how rare they are, and every single person that's selling it knows I talked about the upside. And I remember the Lugia, I'm not going to disclose who it is, but it's a very famous person, tried to sell me their Lugia for 25K USD when the last sold was 8K. I thought it was ridiculous, right? And then I see these buyouts online, and then the Lugia just sold for 24.8. So clearly he wasn't ridiculous. I was the ridiculous one.
Someone's willing to pay it.
Exactly. So these Call of Legends, I'm still looking for the 10s because in my opinion, these are like the closest thing to Gold Stars and being shiny and how they're like jumping out of the page, and they were so short printed. Like most of these, the Lugia is a pop 19 and a PSA 10. The Suicune is a pop 32, and I had 3 of them, right? So I'm still looking for them. I'm not trying to pump the market because it's against my best interest. I still only have the Suicune. I have 2 Suicunes, but I don't have any of the other ones. So that's still for my collection. I'm continuing to look for those. But the Suicune was like, I bought it for like 1,500 a piece. Now they're like 10K. So
that's crazy because the Entei is like 7 or 8K, and then the Ho-Oh is like 10K, right?
Yeah, like 11K or something.
Wow.
Call Legends. And it's because in the Japanese version, they were the shiny present campaign, which is some of the rarest cards in the world, because only 1,000 copies were printed, not graded to 10. That was
Right.
distributed to
Yeah,
a
you
lottery
mentioned
system
that.
of 1 million people. Anyways, some of the more affordable stuff. I personally think the Galarian Gallery for Crown Zenith is extremely overlooked. As you can see, like some of these cards look like tag team arts, and even better because these Pokemon, it shows that they're in the background, they're doing something, they have personality, great art, and most of these cards are like under $10. Like the Riolu, I think is $6 or $7. The Manaphy is like $2.50. I just searched it up. Most of these regular arts that are under $10, I think has the potential to be $50, $100 in 3 to 4 years, just like the regular tag teams are now. All right.
Right.
And
And Pokemon
yeah,
stop with the yellow borders. So
the yellow borders, yeah, and also like the trainer gallery for the late Sword and Shield sets. These cards are gorgeous, like that Zekrom with N riding him, and also like the evolutions. All of these cards are still under $20. They were like $2 for the longest time, but I think they're
yeah.
still extremely undervalued. The Gengar is like $18. You see how beautiful that Gengar card is?
Oh,
I
I
don't
love
think
that
it's gonna be
Gengar.
$18 for long. Yeah, so again, we're not trying to buy the current tag teams or the gold stars. You're trying to see in this current market what are going to be the next tag team cards. And I truly believe the Galarian Gallery cards and the Trainer Gallery cards that are like under $20 now has the potential to become the next tag team cards and have everyone chase after them in 3 to 4 years.
I love that. And there's that Lance's Charizard and the Trainer Gallery Evolutions. Those I bought singles
Yeah,
copy of quite a bit. So
exactly.
I
Those
definitely
are the
think
cards
you're
I'm
on the
going
right
to
track.
search for at the West Coast Card Show, because I know the big cards, everyone is
Ooh.
asking for 130% market. So it's impossible for you to buy anything at card shows now. But, you know, I'm willing to pay 100% for all these cards, strictly just for my binder and potentially investment purposes in 3 to 4 years. And I can sell a few copies that are in worse condition. All right. Sorry, it took so long. I prepared a lot for for these, but I want to go into
Wow,
hearing
that's a
what you're buying.
What am I buying? So I was able to find a couple receipts. I just want to show everybody like the actual receipts and what I'm actually paying, what I actually paid this year for some of the stuff that I bought. So I bought like 3 cases of Crown Zenith cases. So I bought them around March. So not that long ago, but within this year for about 1,200 per case. And now they're going for, I think around 2,000, right? Like
Yeah,
2,300.
sale case is like 2,000 now.
And also earlier on in May and end of April, I bought some Fusion Strike booster box cases right before they saw a jump. So I bought them at around 3,200 and 3,400. So now they're about, I think, 5 to 6K per case. So everything that I bought so far have seen a significant increase
Yeah,
in gains. And also I bought like XY, like older era boxes. I mean, they're still like pretty modern. But I bought an XY Roaring Skies booster box for about 1,800. And I mean, now we know that box is at what, like 5K. So I think that that was a pretty good purchase. Along with the Celestial Storm Elite Trainer box, more for my personal collection. And that box I bought at 580, which I know the entry point is still pretty high for a lot of average collectors. But I think the box is actually now at around 1K. So it wasn't even that long ago that I bought this box either.
Mm.
So everything is seeing a significant gain. And I think Seal Products is kind of where it's at right now. It's predictable and it's stable, and the consistent long-term appreciation is what's so attractive about seal collecting and sealed investment.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. The best, if any of us were a pure investor, forget about the slabs and the singles and just buy a bunch of sealed products for MSRP and stash them away. It's like the easiest way to
Same.
invest, and it's probably the best way to maximize your upside while limiting your downside, because your sealed booster box case in 5 years will never, well, I mean, I can't say never, but have in 5 to 10 years after release have never gone, well, have not shown a tendency to go under MSRP. So your downside is very limited, and Rudy talks about this quite a bit. So balancing your collector and investor brain is really tough, because
So
my
tough.
brain says just put every dollar into sealed modern booster boxes or sealed product. But my collector brain is so boring to collect. It's such a boring way to
It
to
is.
collect and
It is
invest.
boring. Slabs are great to collect, but they're inherently volatile. The price
Yeah,
swings heavily depends on like the hype and the buyer pools and population reports, like some of our viewers were asking earlier. It's just for me, seal products offer like a lot more stability,
that's true. Yeah.
and they're tied to
If you were
scarcity over time.
Yeah, a lot of my friends that are in investing have gotten into sealed investing because of me, and they're just asking for advice, and I'm just telling them buy this, this, and this at this price point, and they're like, okay, good. I'm putting 100K, 200K into it. That is the most boring type, but it's easy for them because
Yeah,
they're not collectors like us, and they don't
yeah.
care about like collecting and showing them off and looking at them as much. I think I wish it was as easy as that as it is for me. But yeah, like
Yeah.
the for those of you that are new in Pokemon, some of the people that are watching are new. The reason why sealed has limited downside and is a very stable way to put your money into is because once the set is out of print, they don't print it, right? And then the the boxes are constantly being opened at an unprecedented rate, not just
Right.
by collectors, but by streamers, rip and shippers. And if a set is popular, it will for sure quantity will go down over time. Even though they're massively printed, a lot of them are being opened every single day, meaning the quantity will continue, supply will dry up, quantities will continue to go down. So if you have a steel product that's desirable in 5 to 10 years, it is as close to guaranteed profits as you can get. And I invest in everything, um, yeah,
Everything. Yeah.
everything.
So
So yeah, that's super interesting. Well,
here,
let's look at the next couple. Next
here's
slide.
my other example. More recent, because it was like last month. So here's an example, a real life example of my investment strategy or investing strategy in the boom. I went to a local card show, Front Row, a couple months ago, and I sold off a bunch of my slabs for about 10K in about 3 hour time span. That's how crazy the market is. Like people were just
Hmm.
coming up to me and just searching through my piles and just offering 90% on the
Wow.
spot. So I couldn't resist, but I went ahead and sold off all my slabs. So now I have 10K in my pocket. I'm like, what am I going to do with this? If I let it sit in my bank, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to appreciate on its own. So right away, I went and bought from Kanto Shark. And by the way, shout out to Kanto Shark for honoring his prices
Sure.
and for selling products at a steal for me at this time. So I bought 3 Evolving Skies booster boxes for about 1,800 each. And that was like end of last month. And also a case of 151 ETB case for about 2,800 after buyer's premium. And as soon as they got to my doorstep, if you pay attention to the market, like I know many viewers are pretty aware of what's going on with the market. Evolving Skies booster boxes is now at 2,500 each. So I just automatically gained like 35% on my ROI in just such a short span of time. And if I would just let that money sit, the money that I made from selling my slabs, I don't think that would have done anything. Um, so that's kind of just a real example of what I've been doing is selling slabs that are super liquid, and then reallocate that money into seal products that I think are undervalued or about to pop or go on another run.
Yeah. I think Evolving Skies is such like an outlier. And for anyone that's in investing that doesn't really pay attention to Pokemon, it's like the most crazy thing that no one understands is how many of these are out there and how crazy the return is in such a short period of time. I didn't really put it into like what I'm buying 25 because, you know, I felt like this opportunity is kind of past at the current price. And but I did buy, I think, about 25 or so Evolving Skies booster boxes. I think at the beginning of the year at around, what was it? I bought a bunch of cases for around 7K or 8. No, not 7K. For under a, yeah, I bought a few cases for 7K, I believe, under 10K Canadian. That was at the beginning of the year, and
Wow.
obviously that's I've done very well.
Yeah.
But a lot of
Yeah.
it was
Very
CJ's
well.
shop inventory, and I bought a few booster boxes at around like the 1,000 to 1,200 range. Some of them stashed away at home, but some of it as shop inventory for CJ. And it's one of the most liquid products out there. And I did buy like 15 cases of Evolving Skies when it was like $300 a pop
Crazy.
a year and a half ago at the end of
Yeah.
23, early 24. But I am not attached to any of it. I like to keep my position around the same. But every time I needed some money to buy, some cash to buy
Yeah.
some new cards that I wanted, I sell a couple of Evolving Skies cases. You know, we've been selling them at 18K a case now, and people pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we sell a couple,
Yeah.
and
It's
the next
crazy.
time I see someone selling a collection that's willing to sell it under market, I buy them back. So it's almost one of the most liquid things you can have. And the
Yeah.
moment you need cash, you can always sell a couple of boxes or cases at like 90% market. It'll just sell in a heartbeat. So
And yeah,
yeah,
that's one of the reason why I picked Evolving Skies is how liquid it is, and the buyer pool for that booster box is pretty big, and it's really easy to offload if I should ever need it for another slab for my personal collection. But like one of the reasons that I try to collect or try to invest in seal is also to accomplish my personal goal of obtaining a certain grill,
yeah.
like a slab, a personal grill slab,
Hmm.
that I'll talk about maybe later on.
I'm
But
curious.
definitely,
What is it?
but but I'm definitely trying to invest more into seal because I know that the gains will certainly appreciate over time, and that's going to get me to my goal.
Yeah. So that's a great way to do it. Like hypothetically, there's a grail that someone wants to buy for $10,000. The conventional, traditional way to do it is almost have a piggy bank or an account where you put aside like $300 a month, right? And then in 30 months, you'll have 10K, and then you can go and buy this $10,000 grail. But usually, if that's in the collectible space, that $10,000 grail in 30 months is going to be maybe $30,000. So you're like, oh,
Yeah,
damn, I missed the train. I gotta
yeah,
buy something else. So the best way to really do it is really whatever amount that you like to allocate to that card or that grill, that gold that you have, you put it towards things that are just about to go out of print, like steel product that's just out of print when it's still at its lowest. Put your money into it, and then by the time you have enough in terms of like the value of that collection, then you sell that to buy your grail. It's the most
yeah.
cost efficient way to do it. You
That's the
know,
most.
most likely what you pick in the seal product is going to outpace that grail card in terms of value appreciation. That's the best way to do it, and that's why we have this, and that's what we do obviously on a bigger scale because we are very blessed financially where we can afford most of the things that I dreamed of when I was a kid, but still I'm very financially responsible. I don't want to stretch myself and put more money into my collection and my hobby, then I'm comfortable with, because my money can actually make me a lot of money investing in other companies and real estate projects and things like that as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's definitely the best way to do it. If you have a goal in mind, do what PokeSun is doing. Put it towards the sealed product that you don't have much attachment to, that you can let go of in 6 to 12 months when you reach that value goal to get that grail, or even trade up for it.
Exactly. Yeah. And other products that I'm picking up that are ultra modern are, Paldean Fates and 151 booster
That's great.
bundles.
Like,
So
are you gonna tell us what that goal is? I'm super curious.
well, I don't know. Should I tell everyone what my goal is? I've always wanted to obtain a first edition Charizard PSA 10. So that's
Oh
been
wow.
my biggest goal. But I do have ambitions towards some of the trophy cards.
Which ones?
More like the trophy cane.
Wow. Yeah,
So
those are
hopefully
hefty goals.
I know. So
You're
I
gonna
have
have to
to
sell a lot of these guys.
I know. But yeah, so this is we gotta, start somewhere. So I have
Wow.
a pretty decent position in Evolving Skies, but obviously not as much as yours. I'm just a small fish in the ocean. And so it's just fun to slowly get to that goal, and I don't have to accomplish it in a certain like time limit. And so I'm kind of just enjoying the journey of how I will get there. But having a goal in mind is always pretty optimal to achieve
Yeah.
success.
You will get there, first of all. So I know that as a fact. And I just love following the journeys of collectors trying to complete these goals. And I can't wait for the day that you get one of those. Even though I would prefer it to be an attack slab, but it's a lot harder to get attack 10 than one of the old Sir PSA 10. So maybe that's a easier route. But I can't wait for that to happen. I do think the Kangaskhan, and a lot of the other trophies that's not a 10 is actually quite undervalued, because you can get like a
Yeah,
Kangaskhan like 7, 8, or 9 for like $50,000-$60,000, right?
right,
So
right.
that's not that far away from a few cases of Evolving Skies. I'm sure that you're able to, unless you want a 10.
Well, according to my collector's app, like the value of my collection is, is already enough to get those cards, but I still want
You
to
can't
wait a little
sell
bit.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true. I still want to
it's hard to
wait.
part with everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, just like
exactly.
on paper, if you have, let's say hypothetically $500,000, $1 million, and you're like, I can buy a house, but would you want the house with no more cards? That would make you
Yeah.
sad. Yeah, same
Yeah.
thing as the way that I think about it now. Yeah.
And the collector side of me is thinking, oh, I still want to keep some of those cases, around just to have, just to say, just because I just feel like I'm connected to it because I've, been opening Evolving Skies, and that's the Sword and Shield era booster boxes and sets. So I still want to keep some. I don't want to sell
Yeah.
it all off.
Yeah, so you have an emotional connection to your cardboard sealed box, the sealed cases.
Anyway, it's
That
hard to
brown
enjoy.
box,
Yeah,
that
just
ugly brown box always looks like crap. But will be at the Van City Card Show. Yes, I will. I want to meet Steve Aoki. I don't think he's coming to Van City Card Show, but he will come, I think, later in the year or early next year. And CJ will probably have another Steve Aoki meet and greet at her shop. I think the Kangaskhan will outpace any seal product that you have. Do you think you can flip all your seal for a grail like that in PSA 10? I think you just answered that question. You could, but I don't think you want to right now.
No, I just want to slowly savor the process because I want to see how far I can take it.
Yeah. The
There's
journey
no
is
rush.
definitely more
There's
important than the
actually a lot
destination.
of PSA 10 Charizards out there, for example. And I just
124, 123.
and I just feel like, do I really want to get there and accomplish my goal? And I just feel like it's the end of the game. And then it would be like game over after I obtain the Grail card, and I just want to prolong the process a little bit longer and see.
I agree, because I had that moment when I had the picture I posted on Instagram with the Tag 10 versus in Charizard, the one that I do believe is one of the strongest ones in the world, at least top 5. And
Yeah.
then the pristine Lugia with the mouse swirl, and obviously the only pristine Rayquaza Gold Star in the world. Had those 3 cards lined up, I always thought when I was a kid, those are the 3 coolest cards ever. And obviously the market started agreeing after. At the time, I didn't care. I didn't know the market existed. And when I had 3 of those lined up of the highest possible grade that I could find and I could afford, I was like, what is there to get? I got kind of bored. I was like, it was almost a moment of sadness. Even though at the time, obviously, I didn't buy the Illustrator or I didn't get the trophies, but I never had any attachment to the Illustrator or the trophies. So to me, that was the end game, those 3. Right. And I can tell you, the journey of getting to that point was definitely a lot more exciting than getting there at the destination. So I totally understand.
Yes, exactly.
You're going through. Yeah. How will the Van City car show be? I'm betting they're not sure how rushed. I mean, there's a lot of content online and on the site that talks about like the schedule, and it's going to be twice as big as last year. So super exciting. And like, do you need to show up super early? I think a few hours before is fine. All right. Let's talk about the last topic, which is like the struggles that I struggle with, like where to put my money as a collector versus an investor. We kind of talked about it throughout our show today, but yeah, it's so tough. You see that picture on the right? That is the the definition, the pinnacle of a successful Pokemon investor. That's what it's supposed to look like.
Is that Rudy or is that yours?
No, I think that's Rudy. No, that's not mine. But if I were to put all my cases together, they would. Probably not that much, but definitely one wall I can fill. But that's Rudy Alpha Investment. And that is, if you were an investor, that guy is definitely a lot more successful than the people that collect the grails on the other side, even though the grails have gone up exponentially as well. But they're volatile. You know, they could go up and down, sideways, you know, depending on where the market is at. The sealed product will never go like this, right?
Yeah, it's
it will go like this.
Pretty steady.
It's a no-brainer. It's easy. The only thing is a lot harder to store than you think. And it's starting, my sealed product is starting to cause me kind of trouble because we filled up every storage room in our house. Our theater, which is where I used to use a theater for movies, games, karaoke all the time, and now looks like the heaven of a beautiful room of a scalper. It looks, we call it the scalp room.
The scalper.
You know,
the scalper theater room.
The theater is like floor to ceiling sealed product cases, and they're, like I said, they're not very pleasing to look at. You know, my friends that are not into Pokemon, they walk in, they're like, "What is this?" Right? It's just brown boxes. And it's getting to the point where it's really annoying me because I'm trying to watch a game and I'm like, oh, I can't see the score. We got these cases. And the other thing is, it's so hard to insure this because collectible insurance in Canada is almost impossible to get. And what's scaring me is not someone coming and stealing it. Well, we have cameras everywhere, but that could happen. But if a pipe explodes, if there is a flood, if there is a fire, what happens to your sealed product? It is
I think
gone.
about that a lot.
Yeah.
Worries me.
Yeah, I'm really struggling with this. And Zugi Collects on Instagram posted about it too. He's like, oh, consolidated a lot of his sealed collection and bought grails that he wanted. And to me, as a collector, I love staring at my grails. You know, the stuff on the left side are the stuff that I've bought over the years. And I look at those cards every day. And sometimes I literally hold one of those cards in my hands and I fall asleep like a kid in 1999. I still do that now, right? I would never, you will never see me grabbing an Evolving Skies case and falling asleep in bed. So
that's true. I don't think anyone would do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm struggling with. In my head, I'm like, you know, it's better off just buying a bunch of these cases. But my heart, I want to buy all these grails. What about you? Like what? Like, I mean, these are great problems to have, right? But I'm starting to think I want to like convert some of my steel collection into a lot more of these grails, even though long term financially as an investor is not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean that is also my end game, is to consolidate and sell off sealed booster cases or elite trainer cases to obtain my ultimate grail, so that way it's more condensed down, because I'm running out of space. I'm putting a couple here in my closet, couple there in, another closet, and above the shelf. I mean, it's kind of like everywhere. It's a little horrendous. So I like to be a little bit more organized, but I just can't get it organized because there's just boxes and I keep accumulating them. That's a problem. I have a hoarding problem as well. And it is worrisome what you said, about like an accidental fire, water pipe might burst, and that would completely ruin
Everything.
everything.
And it happens more than you think. Like I've invested in a lot of real estate, a lot of property, and you know, every year or a couple of years, one of the properties will go through a problem with the system, with the piping, and there's water damage, and it's just really, really, it happens quite a bit. And I just like knock on wood, it hasn't happened to our house yet, but it has happened at CJ's shop.
I
And
remember.
there's a lot of these products sitting at the CJ shop, but good thing is most of the expensive stuff are higher up and the cheaper stuff are at the bottom. But I do remember there's a lot of celebrations cases that were water damaged, and the
Yeah.
insurance wouldn't cover most of it because it's collectibles. And well, the water damage they would, but they would cover like, it's hard for them to cover market value for the whole thing. So yeah, storing is tough. It's not like buying a stock or index fund or crypto where it's just like it's there. You don't have to worry about it being damaged. You still have to worry about the company going out of business or but it's tough. Like for me,
It's tough.
it is a huge struggle. I think eventually I want to find like a fine balance for both, and maybe finding a safer storage unit where there's less of a risk, and just getting insurance policy. Well, most of my slabs actually, like the really expensive ones, are stored in the bank vault now. Like it took me a long time to do that because I like looking at them all the time.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's too much of a liability at home. Like we have, I think $4.5 million. We did some calculations around that, around like
Yeah.
2.5
have to
million
get
in
that
slabs and like
locked away.
over $1.5 million in sealed. We can't have that at home. It's just not safe for us to do that. So most of the expensive stuff are stored away. We got cameras, but you can't
Yeah.
just store all the sealed product away. It's just so tough. They're so
It
big.
is so tough for the seal products. I try to separate all my seal products, like a bulk of my seal products, into one room, one in the other, just in case if like there's a fire or something accidental, or tree fell down to our house. That has happened to our neighbors and destroyed their room. So I try to spread out all my sealed into different areas of the house, just in case if something does happen, I'm not losing it all to accidental damages. So there's no good way to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way
It
to
happened to Bearded
completely.
Cards too at his house. Bearded Cards is his name is Adam. He's a shop owner in Toronto. That really sucks. I didn't know about that. Yeah, like I said, it happens more often than you think. But the problem is, like, most people don't really have a great solution to it. So yeah, it's kind of bothering me. So like we had this slide up not because I had a solution in mind, but I just wanted to talk about it. I'm sure everyone is kind of like going through the same thing.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm just constantly, it's bothering me a little bit in the back of my head, but I'm trying.
Because you can have millions of dollars in slabs in just a couple of cases, but it's impossible for a steel product. It's way too big. And the other thing is, like, on display, right? When I display my slabs, everyone can see it and enjoy it the way that I do. I can't be displaying my cases. I sometimes take my friends in the storage room and they think I'm crazy. Like, what am I looking at?
Look at this brown box and that roll of brown box.
I was like, no, you don't understand. In that brown box lies 6 team up boxes.
Yeah, not a lot of people, unless they're
Trust
like
me, bro.
dedicated investors or collectors, would know to appreciate something like that. I don't think a lot of people, average casual collectors, probably would be like, "Oh, you guys are crazy."
Yeah, unless you do it like Pokey where he makes a shit ton of content where he made it into a Game of Thrones style, like, and then he sits on the throne with the crown, you know,
Oh yeah, in
obviously
his
getting
empty
all the
room.
hate. You
Yeah,
know,
ridiculous.
I thought about doing that, but then first of all, I'm a lot heavier than him, and second, I feel like people are gonna take it a different way if I do it. They'll be like, "Oh, this guy's showing off."
I
But
mean, that's the criticism that Pokey Annie Bryan is getting, is
yeah,
that people are calling him
yeah, I know, man.
scalpers. But what is he scalping?
Man,
Like a bunch of decks?
yeah, we're all scalping. No, that word is so overused.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why
people call Twitter scalping.
I never show my sealed, like how I store my sealed products. I mean, they're everywhere. It's hard to take a picture, and I just don't want to be, falsely accused of something that I'm
Yeah,
not. But anyways, yeah. So the struggles as a sealed collector, slab collector, investor. I think this is something that goes through our mind, is getting insurance, if the insurance would even cover your seal products, but
yeah,
also storing your slabs in a safe location.
yeah. Insurance is really expensive because they treat collectibles like cash. It's literally like if you have $1 million in collectibles at home, they treat it as insuring $1 million in cash. So it's super expensive. Like, um, I know a policy for like a $5 million policy for a friend of mine that I was talking to. I think he pays $6,000 a month in insurance. Something
Wow.
like crazy, like 60K, 70K a year to like insure his like $5 million like collectible insurance, which is kind of like crazy. I don't want to pay that much, even though I might have to. But yeah, we don't even have good options in Canada, so it's very tough to properly insure collectibles.
Yeah,
Isn't it Nostalgia Economics? Yes, he may want to. Yeah, him and Pokey.
well, there's a collectibles insurance services, or CIS, in the US that I know people like Catch 'em All Collectible uses, ZNG potentially. So I've been looking into getting that, because I know you just never know. For peace of mind, I'd rather have some type of coverage
Yeah,
just in
exactly.
case.
6K a month is nonsense. Yeah, I think it's because in Canada, most insurance companies don't offer it, so it's a lot tougher for us over here. That's a lot more expensive. This McFluffin says, respect to you guys for speaking things how they are. Not an easy thing to do in this market. No, appreciate your
Thank you.
kind
Yeah,
words. That's what we try to do.
appreciate that. Does anybody else have any other questions? Please ask them in the chat.
Yeah, if you have any more questions, we can answer them. Yeah, we had a great time with this show because it's so
Yeah.
we've been called bears and people that don't. I think everything will go down for the longest time because we felt like it was almost like our responsibility as collectors and investors, kind of like to warn the market in terms of what you might get yourself into at the peak of the market. That we kind of like refrain from talking about what to buy, and also because we were, I mean, I was kind of worried about this. I don't know about PokeSun, but I didn't want people to think we're purposely like shilling the things that we already have. But then I talked to a lot of people and they really want that info. They want us to make a video like this. So that's what we did.
ALF sign up as, sorry, late to the pod. What do you guys think of black white era boxes? I think more specifically like the older boxes, like the Plasma Legendary Treasure. No one ever talks about them, and you rarely see them for sale that often. What do you think? I think they're like completely overlooked.
Yeah.
And there's no. I feel like during that period of time, I was not there for the Blackened era booster boxes, so I don't have a lot of like nostalgia
Yeah.
connection to that era either. So I'm not in the buyer pool for
I
that
agree.
set.
I'm in the exact same boat. The black and white era was not like I wasn't really present for that era, but I do know that it was very overlooked because a lot of people, for exactly that reason, a lot of people left the hobby at the time. So Pokemon didn't print a lot of black and white era boxes, and there's not a lot of hype around it. So I do think because of that, the principles, the fundamentals of investing is there definitely is opportunity, but I'm not really the buyer pool for it either, just because I collect and buy stuff that I have a connection with my childhood, and that's not technically like I'm not a pure investor in this area, so I don't really want to collect or even invest in stuff that I don't have a connection with.
But yeah, it also just doesn't make sense to me how an older box from the Black and Era box is cheaper than like XY Phantom Force or XY Flash Fire. But I think it goes back to what Jesse had said, that because there is that nostalgia connection with the XY era when Pokemon Go was popular, people are going back to acquire those XY boxes, and they're not
Yeah,
paying as much attention to the older mid-era set like Black and Era.
yeah, I agree. All right. Well, we have another two questions. McFluffin says, quick question. How do you see niche pop, low pop graded during the near mid future? Or have some really low pop PSA 10 grills never sell? It's hard to gauge. Can you give like specific examples? Because like we mentioned before, there's a lot of low pop stuff that's low pop because people don't grade them and they're not worth grading. But there's a lot of other. I think that's what you mean by niche. I think it really depends on the artwork. And again, like we always preach, buy what you enjoy. And the Crown Zenith Galarian Gallery and the trainer galleries for the later Sword and Shield era booster boxes, like those sets to me are some of the best artwork I've ever seen. So I'm gonna buy them, like regardless of if they go up in value or not. I enjoyed the art, and I know like they're not being graded a lot now because they're not worth a lot. But in the future, I do think people will start to come around and pay attention to them and see how beautiful they are and appreciate them. So it really depends on like why it's low pop. I see people trying to sell me a lot of like random like Suicune hollows from like modern sets. It's like a pop too. It's like, hey, you like Suicune? This is like one of the rarest Suicunes in the world. It's like, no, that's like a regular rare hollow from like 5 years ago from Lost Thunder. The reason why it's low pop.
Or even better, the Seismitoad by Shinji Kenda, that's pop 7 right now from Black Bolt in the PSA 10, selling for 2 to 3K supposedly last sold. I mean, that's low pop, but it's because, you know, people are trying to make that first to grade, first to market plays.
No, don't worry about low pop for anything modern. I can tell you that. If it's a modern set card and you're saying it's niche because it's low pop, it's because people don't care about it. There is no shortage of modern set cards. I don't care what it is. When I say modern, like it's maybe let's say Sword and Shield and Sword and Shield and beyond. Maybe Sun and Moon, but Sun and Moon is shorter printed. But even for those, don't worry about the low pop unless it's super, super hard to grade. Like a lot of the XY era stuff and the black and white era stuff was printed so bad that its conditional rarity is super low for the 10s, right? So that I do believe has potential, but not the stuff that's past Sun and Moon.
What about the Ancient Origins Gyarados PSA 10? A staff release. That's
that's pretty cool. I personally don't really care about the staff stamp just because I actually think it makes the card look uglier. But there's a lot of people that collect these limited cards, like the rare versions of these cards. I do think that card will have a buyer because if there's only pop 1, right, in the future, if you ever do want to sell it, there's going to be someone that collects Gyarados that's going to want it. So that's a good example.
Yeah,
that is a special
very
card.
Unique example.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about some of the like the modern, like the random like hollows that people don't grade.
Right.
Yeah.
CPT asks, when it comes to collecting investing, how much is too much? Do you plan to take profits of older sets to make room for newer sets as time go by?
Absolutely. That's what we've been preaching, really. Yeah, you shouldn't be worried about selling. If you hoard everything and never sell, it's not sustainable as a hobby, because myself included, there is going to come a time when you need funds, right? Whether it's to invest in a company, whether it's to, your pre-sale comes up, you got to pay for the condo, or you got to pay for mortgage, or one of your businesses need money. Like, things happen. I don't care how wealthy or successful you are, there is going to come a time where you need money. And if you don't sell some of your old investments and collections to make room for your new investments, it's not going to be sustainable. I've seen this over and over again from people that are doing very well in life, making 6-7 figures, that had to sell off their entire collection because they're like, hey, I need the money now. And you don't want to run into that situation. So I totally believe that you have to both buy and sell at all times. At least consider both options, have both buttons.
Yeah, you gotta be able to learn or know how to sell. Be willing to learn at least to sell in this market, because if you don't learn, then you're going to be stuck at selling your collection at 60 to 70% to a shop or another buyer online. So please learn how to sell onto the secondary market.
Yeah. I love them. I don't mind holding. Think they're all underrated. So, I mean, that's good. As long as you love them, it doesn't matter where the value goes. And oftentimes, that's when you actually buy the winning products or cards that end up going crazy, because genuine people, genuine collectors liking one thing, meaning when other people starts to pay attention to that card or set, they're going to like it too.
Ooh, Shining Gyarados double hollow. What are your thoughts about the double hollows, like the Magikarp, the Houndoom, and they're specifically from the Neo series?
I think this really depends on the card. I spent a lot of time, because CJ and I were thinking about making a video on the double hollows for Neo Rev, and I can tell you, it's like some of the most confusing thing ever. I did a lot of research on E4, and some of them are like beautiful, like the Houndoom, like it looks like the night sky is so gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
But some of them, like my Suicune or like a few other cards that, like there's like, they're like, this is one way you can tell it's a double hollow because there's less shadow around, but the card itself looks the same. So like I actually recently found out that my Pop 1 Pristine 10 Neo Rev Suicune is a double hollow.
Really?
I matched it.
Wow. Extra premium.
Yeah, I was like, yo, that's cool. But
yeah,
do I really care about it? Like, it's against my financial interest to say this. I don't think it should add any value to it. Well, it doesn't matter, because I'm not gonna sell it. I just personally think the double hollow on the Suicune looks the same. Right? Obviously there's slight differences, but it doesn't add to the card. So, like, to me, I think the Gyarados, it does make it pop more. So I think it would be cool. It is double hollow for Neo Rev isn't that rare. It's like 1 out of 3 cards or 1 out of 4 or something. There's a lot of double hollows for Neo Rev, so it really depends on the card. For the Gyarados, it does make sense. For a lot of the other ones, it doesn't. Right? I don't care if there's like one less shade in this one area.
Yeah,
I think the Houndoom adds a lot to it, though.
That's so true, because I own 2 of the double hollow Houndoom. I sold them off without knowing that, like, double hollow adding extra premium. And PSA just recently started recognizing double hollows last year.
Yeah,
and so it just became a thing more recently. And there's like hollow patterns in Fossil era that are like called mirror errors. Like, there are less sparkles in the hollow, and that commands supposedly a premium because there's like less sparkles in the hollow pattern.
And there's gold stars with EU prints compared to the American prints, basically being what they call it, a lot more higher definition, and the saturation is slightly different. There's so many variants for every card that you can't just, like, to me, I'm like not as into the error collecting market where like every variant, like, it's, I hate to say this, but it's on a spectrum. And
it is.
There's not really like an EU print for gold stars compared to like an American print. There's like 20 different variants that I've seen, that I've talked to every gold star collector in the world. It's so tough. You're gonna say, oh, like, anybody that says like this variant is worth more than others, usually have like a vested interest in it. So I
Agree.
don't really buy too much into it unless it's a legitimately like known like really rare error that has like some cultural significance, like the Dragonite with the non-hollow with the 5 at the bottom.
Yes.
Um, yeah, there's a few errors that's like significant that people know about. But if you're just gonna go into like the different print runs, like back then they didn't print perfectly. Every set and every print run was slightly different. Like the first edition Charizards, the saturation is different for every print run, or like every case that you open, it's gonna be like a different. There's variants to the color. Like some first edition Charizards are really orange, like really really red, and some of them are
Right.
really like light, like orange. So
Yeah.
it's are you gonna say the red one is worth more than the other
Oh my
one?
gosh.
Like,
That would
I
be
don't
a
know.
little too
Yeah, it's too
much.
much.
But McFluffins has let's make this our last question.
Okay.
Thanks for all your insights. Sorry, I also joined later. May I ask what seal do you currently see as a good mid to long term investment? Appreciate it.
Okay. Do you want to start first, and then I can? We can each give one.
A good mid to long term investment. I would say Crown Zenith
Hmm.
for long term, and also, I mean, I have quite a few in mind, but I feel like you're asking for like just one or two. Um,
Mm.
all the Sword and Shield era booster boxes are good mid to long term investments for sure. And
Hmm.
I mean, even some of the earlier Scarlet and Violet sets. We have
Yeah.
the Paldea Evolved and 151. I think those are particularly the most standout sets that right now, anyways. But we also talked about Paldean Fates being one of the options that might be a little overlooked because the bubble Mew is popping off right now. But I don't know.
Hmm.
What do you think?
I think it depends on what you look at in terms of are you looking on like your return on your investment, your rate of return. So we're not looking at the absolute value. Like Evolving Skies, we already know that's going to go up, right? That's going to be a lot higher in terms of dollar value, but in terms of the rate of investment, if for it to go from like 2,500 to 5,000, it's a lot less likely than seeing like Crown Zenith going from 180 or 200 to 400, in my opinion. So it really depends on what you look at. But in terms of putting your money into it in the midterm, I do think Celebrations is a really good set. That's why I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Around like 200, it's still a pretty good buy. And for months, and those two sets are really good. The late Sword and Shield era block, I think, what the Trainer Gallery will be seen very similarly to the late Sun and Moon era with the tag teams. I'm talking about Brilliant Stars Lost Origin, um, Astral Radiance, and Silver Tempest. Those 4 sets with the Trainer Galleries with higher pull rates and a lot more really, really great artwork will be seen very favorably in the long term. So those sets for sure. We also have Pokemon Knee in the house. That air stuff was all pretty
Okay.
fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating. I just don't think every error card should be worth like 2, 3, 4x its regular variant because there's so many variants. It's not just like your regular card and an error. It's just so many different variants.
Someone- Oh yeah. I love collecting airs actually, like quite a bit. I love the hollow shifts and like miscuts and all that stuff, but we won't get into too much of that.
All right. Well,
Okay.
all right.
I
Thank you
think
so much
that
for joining us.
will wrap up our live stream for today. Thank you all so much for joining us. And if you guys have any questions, you can always DM us. Our links are down below. And make sure to check out our Pokey SMP on Instagram for latest stories on the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Send us any of your questions or stuff that you'd like to hear for the next episode. We'll try and do this more often. We've been both super busy over the last month, but it's always exciting for us to get together and do this. Like I feel like we do this for the community, but also like for ourselves. I really like to look back and like the stuff that we talked about 6, 8, 10 months ago. I would love
Oh
to
yeah.
look back at this episode in 2 years to see what we got right and what we got wrong. I'm sure there's gonna be a ton of correct predictions and
Yeah.
bunch of stuff that's going to age well and not well. So excited for that. And yeah, I'm so glad that you guys were able to join us, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you guys next time. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
all so much.